It started with something so small, so ordinary, that Daniel almost ignored it. His son's laptop left open on the kitchen table. The screen glowed faintly in the early morning light, half covered by cereal crumbs and yesterday's homework. But there, in the middle of the screen, was a single document titled, "To the man who will kill my father." He froze. For a moment, he thought it was some kind of dark school project or a creative writing assignment. But as his hand hovered over the touchpad, something in his chest tightened, the same feeling you get right before a storm breaks. Before we begin, tell me where you're listening from in the comments below. Your city, your country, or even the weather outside right now. And if stories like this keep you wondering, please subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Your support helps me keep telling these mysteries that stay with you long after they end. Daniel hesitated, then clicked the file. The document opened slowly, like it knew what it was about to do to him. Dear stranger, if you're reading this, it means you're close. You don't know me, but I know you. I know what you want, and I know my father, Daniel Reed, won't believe you're real until it's too late. But I forgive you, because some things are meant to happen, and some people are meant to find each other, even through endings. Daniel's throat went dry. He scrolled down. There were more lines. Please don't hurt him for what he did. He didn't mean to leave that night. He didn't mean to make her drive alone. He didn't know the rain would take her away. Daniel felt the air leave his lungs. That night, the storm, Claire, his wife, his son's mother. She had died in a car accident 10 years ago. Daniel had been the one who told his son that fate was cruel, that no one was to blame. But here, in this letter, his son had written something else. Something that sounded less like grief and more like warning. He scrolled to the end. Dad, if you find this first, I'm sorry. I didn't mean for you to read it yet, but you'll understand when the man arrives. The one who looks like you, but isn't you. Daniel's finger froze on the mouse. The clock on the wall ticked so loudly, it seemed to fill the house. He slammed the laptop shut. His hands were trembling. What was this? Some kind of cruel joke? His son, Ethan, was 17, quiet, intelligent, a bit distant since the pandemic, but nothing like this. Daniel's mind raced through possibilities. Maybe it was a creative writing assignment for English class, a draft for a short story, a secret online forum for writers. But then he remembered something Ethan had said just 2 nights before. Dad, do you ever feel like you're living the same day twice? At the time, Daniel had laughed it off. That's just routine, kid. Now he wasn't laughing. Ethan came downstairs a few minutes later, his backpack slung over one shoulder, earbuds in, humming something faint. Daniel watched him in silence. Hey, Daniel said, trying to sound casual. You left your laptop open. Ethan froze mid-step. I did? Yeah, you... working on a story or something? The boy's face went pale. You read it? Daniel hesitated. I saw the title. Ethan's jaw clenched. You weren't supposed to. Ethan, what is it? Some kind of fiction project? The boy looked away. It's not fiction. Daniel frowned. Then what is it? Ethan met his father's eyes, and for the first time in years, Daniel saw real fear there. It's what's going to happen, he said quietly. That night, Daniel couldn't sleep. He sat on the couch, replaying his son's words again and again. He wanted to dismiss them as teenage melodrama, but something deeper gnawed at him. The next morning, he checked the document again. The file was gone, deleted. Even the title had vanished from the system history. When Ethan came down for breakfast, Daniel asked, "Where's the file?" His son's answer chilled him more than the cold air coming through the window. Ethan looked up from his cereal and said calmly, "You don't need to read it again, Dad. You already lived it once." Daniel dropped his spoon. "What does that mean?" But Ethan didn't answer. He just smiled sadly, like someone who knew something he wished he didn't. The next morning, Daniel woke up to the sound of rain. Soft, steady, endless. It was the kind of rain that carried memories in its rhythm, the same way music carries emotion. For a moment, he forgot about the letter, the words that refused to leave his mind. But then he saw Ethan's empty chair at the kitchen table, the untouched bowl of cereal, and reality came flooding back. He poured himself a cup of coffee, hands still trembling. His phone buzzed. A message from Ethan. "Don't go to work today." That was all it said. No explanation, no punctuation. Just a sentence that felt like a warning. Before he could reply, another message arrived. "He'll be there." Daniel's breath caught. He dialed Ethan's number immediately. No answer. He grabbed his jacket, the same one he'd worn the night Claire died, and rushed outside. The sky was gray, the air thick with that heavy quiet that comes before something bad. The drive to work felt longer than usual, the roads half drowned by rain. By the time Daniel reached the construction site, he was soaked. He told himself it was just paranoia, that his son was playing some strange game, that this was nothing more than a teenage experiment gone too far. But then he saw it. A man standing at the edge of the site, under an umbrella, watching him. From the distance, he looked ordinary. Dark coat, clean shoes, calm posture. But something about him felt off. The way he stood, the stillness, the precision. And then the man turned. Daniel's heart stopped, because he was looking at his own face. The same eyes, the same scar above the brow, even the same small mole under the chin. The man smiled. It wasn't warm. It was recognition. Daniel stumbled back a step, the coffee cup slipping from his hand and shattering on the gravel. The sound made the workers glance up, but by the time Daniel looked again, the man was gone. He ran toward the street. Nothing. No car, no footsteps, no trace. He drove straight home, his mind racing. When he walked in, Ethan was sitting at the table, sketching quietly, as if nothing had happened. "You saw him," Ethan said without looking up. Daniel froze. "How do you know that?" "Because you always do," Ethan said. "That's how it starts." Daniel sat down across from him. "Ethan, I don't know what kind of story you're caught up in, but you need to tell me what's happening." The boy's pencil paused mid-line. "It's not a story," he said softly. "It's a pattern. And it's happening again." "Again?" Daniel repeated. "What do you mean again?" Ethan looked up, his eyes tired, far too old for 17. "You said once that everyone gets one mistake that defines their life. Yours was the night she died." Daniel's throat tightened. "Claire's accident wasn't my fault." "I know," Ethan said. "It wasn't the first time either." "What?" Ethan pushed the sketch across the table. It was a drawing of Daniel, standing in the rain, looking at himself. Next to the figure, a shadow with the same face holding something behind his back. Daniel swallowed hard. You think that man wants to hurt me? Ethan shook his head slowly. He doesn't want to hurt you. He wants to finish what already happened. Ethan, listen to me, Daniel said, gripping the table edge. You're scaring me. Who is he? The boy hesitated. He's you. From before. Daniel blinked. From before what? Ethan looked away. Before the night Mom died. Before you promised you'd change everything if you could. The air left Daniel's lungs. Ethan. She told me, the boy said, voice trembling. Before she died, she said she'd seen what would happen, that you'd get a second chance. That one day, you'd meet yourself. Daniel's chest tightened, the weight of every unsaid word between him and Claire pressing down like thunder. She said you'd have to choose, Ethan continued, between fixing the past or keeping the present. The lights flickered. Outside, the rain hit harder, echoing through the house like footsteps on hollow ground. Daniel stood and walked toward the living room, drawn by something he couldn't name. And there he was, standing by the window, looking out at the storm. Himself, but older, different. Eyes darker, wearier, as if carrying years Daniel hadn't lived yet. The other Daniel turned, meeting his gaze with quiet familiarity. Still trying to outrun it? He asked softly. Daniel couldn't breathe. Who are you? The man smiled faintly. You already know. Ethan appeared behind him, frozen in the doorway. It's happening sooner this time, he whispered. Daniel backed away, heart pounding. This isn't real. The man stepped closer. It wasn't supposed to be. You made a wish, Daniel. The night she died. You said I'd give anything to go back. Daniel's voice broke. That's not possible. The other smiled sadly. It is. But every wish costs something. He reached into his coat and pulled out a folded letter, the same letter Daniel had found on Ethan's laptop. Daniel stared at it. That's... Yes, the man said quietly. It's mine. I wrote it for you. He placed the letter on the table beside Ethan's drawing. I'm here to give you what you asked for. Daniel's pulse thundered in his ears. And what's that? The other Daniel's eyes softened. The same eyes Daniel saw every morning in the mirror, only older, sadder, wiser. A chance to make it right. The rain had slowed, but thunder still rolled far away, like a reminder that some storms never really end. They just circle back when you least expect them. Daniel stood frozen in his living room, staring at the man who wore his own face. Ethan hovered behind him, pale and trembling. Outside, lightning flashed, washing the room in white for a heartbeat. And in that light, Daniel saw it. Not malice, not danger, but sorrow in the older man's eyes. Why are you here? Daniel whispered. The older version smiled faintly. Because you asked me to be. I didn't. Yes, the man interrupted gently. You did. The night she died, you begged for a second chance. You said, if I could just go back 1 hour, I'd do anything. And you meant it. The universe heard you. Daniel's hands clenched at his sides. You're saying, you're me? from that night? I'm what became of you, the man said. The version who took that wish and lived through what followed. Ethan stepped forward, his voice shaking. You told me it wouldn't happen this time. The older Daniel looked at him sadly. It always does, Ethan. Unless he chooses differently. Daniel's heart pounded. Chooses what? To save Claire, the man said simply, or to keep you. Silence filled the room, the kind that presses against your ears and makes every breath sound too loud. Daniel's mind raced. If this was real, and some part of him knew it was, then every word carried a weight he couldn't bear. I don't understand, he said finally. How could saving her mean losing him? The older Daniel sighed. Because when I went back, I stopped the accident. I kept her alive, but in doing that, Ethan was never born. The words hit like a blow. Daniel staggered, gripping the edge of the table. No, that can't be right. The man stepped closer. It is. I've lived it. I saved her, Daniel. For a while it was perfect. But every day I looked at her and saw the son we never had, the laughter missing from the corners of the house, the music she never played again. He took a slow breath. The wish gives you what you want, once, but it takes what you need. Daniel shook his head, trying to pull air into lungs that refused to work. You're saying I have to choose between my wife and my son. I'm saying, the man corrected softly, you have to decide which version of love you can live with. Ethan looked between them, eyes wide. If he saves Mom, I won't exist? Daniel turned to him, throat tight. No. I'd find you. Somehow You can't, the older one said quietly. Believe me, I tried. Ethan's lip trembled. Then don't. Please, Dad. Don't. The older Daniel reached into his coat again, pulling out the folded letter. The one Daniel had already seen once. He placed it on the table and pushed it toward him. This is the last time you'll read it, he said. It's your reminder that some pain is meant to stay. Daniel looked down at the page. Same handwriting, same haunting words. But at the bottom, new lines had appeared. When the time comes, remember, love doesn't ask you to choose. It teaches you what you can't lose. He looked up. What does that mean? The older Daniel smiled, tired, peaceful. You already know. And then he was gone. Just gone. The space where he had stood shimmered for a moment, then folded into silence. Daniel sank into the chair, the letter shaking in his hands. Ethan came to him quietly, placing a small hand on his shoulder. What are you going to do? Daniel looked up at his son, this boy with Claire's eyes and his own stubborn heart, and he finally understood what the letter meant. I already made my choice, he said softly. He tore the letter in half. The sound was small but final. No more second chances, he whispered. We live this one right. Ethan's eyes filled, but he smiled. Mom would like that. Daniel nodded. She already does. The storm outside eased into drizzle, and a single beam of sunlight slipped through the window, landing on the piano in the corner. Daniel stood, walked over, and pressed one key. The low note first, just the way Claire had loved it. Ethan joined him, pressing the next one. Together, they played the melody she used to hum, imperfect, fragile, and completely alive. When the last note faded, Daniel closed his eyes and whispered, "Thank you." To her. To the version of himself that had carried the burden. To the universe that had finally let him understand. Later that night, as father and son sat on the porch watching the sky clear, Ethan leaned against him and said, "Do you think she can see us?" Daniel smiled. "She's not watching, kid. She's here." He pointed to the heart of his chest. "Always." And as the stars appeared one by one, Daniel knew that sometimes the greatest miracle isn't rewriting the past. It's learning how to live beautifully with what remains. If this story made you think about the choices we make for love, tell me in the comments below. Would you have saved her or chosen the life you already had? And if you enjoy stories that mix mystery, emotion, and impossible choices, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps keep these stories alive, and maybe, just maybe, help someone else choose love over regret.